Okay, it looks like it's going. And go ahead and record. Okay, so hello everybody, welcome. I have an amazing guest on today. Her name is Sherri Divband and does amazing things with kids, schooling, as well as adults, activate abilities, and navigates the world, the matrix, to see what is holding people back. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, well, Sean, thank you for having me on first and foremost. It's an honor to be invited on your platform. A little bit about myself. I am an intuitive energy healer, and over the years that morphed into soul readings and kind of a soul level quantum healing sessions with my clients, working with children. I work primarily with children who are either falsely labeled and or what we call new earth children, so highly psychic. They remember their past lives and they're really craving change, and I feel like I'm an ambassador to facilitate that change and educate the public on why they're here and what they're here to do. I also work with adults, helping them do their helping them activate and awaken to who they are, their true purpose. So I also founded Aramis Creative Learning Center about 4 years ago, which is an alternative educational platform for children, which I believe is the future of conscious education, which we can talk about a little bit more. I'm also a public speaker, so I speak at conferences, I do a lot of interviews, and I have 4 books, 9 children's books, and a cartoon animation series based off of the children's books as well. So lots of different directions we can go in.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for doing all that. Yeah, and so people can look them up. Can you repeat the name of the school and some of the books and like how people can find that video for
Yeah.
children? This is very useful. It's really hard. It's not easy to teach kids this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a special way that we try to do it more to empower them and to activate their inner knowing. You know, they already know all this stuff. They just want other people, they want to hear other people say it so that they don't feel like they're alone. So the Divinely Guided Children Animation series is on YouTube. It's under Divinely Guided Children Animation. And the Divinely Guided Children's book series is on Amazon along with my other books. So if you just Google my name on Amazon as an author, everything will come up. The children's books and my newest book, Courage to Change the Freedom Movement, from this year. Last year's book, Starseeds and the Great Awakening. Before that, there was Divinely Guided. That was an adult, a guidebook for parents, teens, and young adults. And then previous to that was Intuitive Transformation Evolution. AramisCreativeLearning.com is the website to learn more about our educational platform. And SherriDivband.com is where you can find more information about me specifically and the sessions that I do.
Oh, lovely. How did you get into this line of work and passion?
It's a good question. I think I've said it so many times, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you never know who's listening for the first time. I started out as a registered veterinary technician. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to work with the animals. I dedicated my good 20 years of my life to the animal kingdom. I'm very passionate about the animal kingdom for many reasons. So I went into the veterinary field with the intention, silly, of myself to not be around people. I just had such an adverse feeling towards humanity and people, and they were so mean and abrasive and arrogant and so much ego that I just wanted to immerse myself with animals. But the joke is when you work in a veterinary field, you're with the owners of the animals, the clients, and they are quite challenging in that environment. So that was the big joke on me. But I ended up going into intensive care, where I worked in the ICU for a while, and I loved that because I was kind of in the back of the hospital with the critical patients, and the owners sometimes weren't even allowed back there, which I loved. So I could just focus on the animals. But it was through that period when I was working with the animals in critical care on ventilators. I mean, just the most challenging journey that they went through. I learned what's it called? Reiki. I wanted to learn energy healing so I could help them a little bit further and I did animal communication around that time. And my journey led me to the National Zoo. So I worked at the zoo for another 10 years. And that I learned so much because then I really communicated with the animal kingdom, not just cats and dogs and domesticated animals, but I really started to communicate with all sorts of wildlife. And that was eye-opening for me. I learned a lot through that period. And I really started my animal communication business during that period. But that led me to my own personal journey as a mother. I had one child going into that, and I had two more at the zoo. And I had a massive spiritual awakening during that period, had 3 traumatic births. And as a result of that, I learned hypnobirthing, which is a self-guided hypnosis form of breathing and natural childbirth. So I didn't want anyone else to suffer like I did. And I thought there has to be a better way. So I learned that. And through that, I got into regression and hypnotherapy. So then I became a master hypnotherapist. And I opened a wellness center, and I quit my job, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to work at the zoo. So I opened a wellness center, and I was focusing on hypnobirthing, doing soul readings and regression therapy and all sorts of sound healing. And I was hosting spiritual like circles and mini retreats and things like that at my center. And it was amazing. But it wasn't until I started to attract children into my center. And it really was the parents that were looking for guidance on their psychic children or children that were labeled or nonverbal, and they couldn't communicate with them. And they asked if I could communicate with them and get messages, kind of coming to me as a psychic. But unbeknownst to me at that time, it was going to open up an entire world that I had no idea was going to lead me to where I am today. So the journey that I've had is an interesting path, because it's like one door open and led to another and another and another. And I couldn't have dreamt of the order that it came, but it all came in like this divine timing. And one thing kind of divinely led me to the next. And here I am today doing kind of in hindsight, looking back, I'm still working with animals. I still work with people. I work with adults. I work with pregnant women. I work with children. I work I'm doing it all now, minus the veterinary part. I don't do anything like that anymore, but still with animals. So it's kind of full circle if you think about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned animal communication. I love that ability. I've heard people don't know, and they can look it up. There's multiple people talking about it and how to get into it. And just by working with animals, plants, going out in nature, you can go through the different easier layers of elemental life that are willing to communicate to a person. And then as they open up and be in walkie-talkie receptive projective mode, then they can start gaining information, knowledge, and connecting more with the world around them that is ultimately them, and learn so much from the animal medicine that comes through and that the reality brings to us. And working with pets is a powerful way to amplify all that, especially through heart-based telepathy. And it like leads to things like psychic tracking and animal tracking and communication and empathy and resolving problems and being a greater healer. And it's very valuable. There should be more animal healers, but there are some, but a lot of them don't like to be public. So thank you for doing that. What would you say for people that are wanting to get into animal communication, what their pathway that you went through that you suggest?
That's a good question. I don't think that there is one specific pathway, because I think everyone is guided in the direction that they need to go at any given time, that it's going to look different for someone else. And I work with a lot of sensitive and empathic people who say, I would love to have a career with animals. But the thing about the 3D is it's not really compatible with passions, because I struggled as a vet tech. I made no money. Nobody does that type of work because they want to make money. So you barely make ends meet, but you love what you do. And so when you're looking at a career with animals, even vets, I've worked with vets for 20 years, and I see them struggle, spending so many years of their life going into vet school, going into massive debt, and really not like enjoying their career at all, and feeling like they made a mistake, and it's all about money and clients. And there's just so many layers to it. So same goes with anybody looking to work in shelters or doing energy healing on animals or animal communication. So it's a tough journey for people who want to do that field of work because it's not widely respected. I'm talking about the communication and the natural healing. Up until this point, it's starting to become that way, but it's where our society isn't set up for that. So there's no insurance for you to go take your animal to a pet psychic, or it's harder to go to a natural veterinarian because a lot of the pathways that they use, you can't use insurance. And so it's a hard journey. So a lot of people, what they end up doing is they have a full-time job and they do it on the side until they get to a point where they feel like they have enough business or enough referrals to flip-flop and do it like kind of like I did. I had that job, that full-time job, and then eventually I just quit and opened a wellness center, but I still had the part-time, and then you kind of flip-flop until you can make ends meet. But the thing about children that I work with, like the young adults that are in their late teens, graduating high school, debating on if they want to go to college, or the 20-year-olds, or even early 30s, what I'm noticing is there's this huge trend of them longing so deeply and compassionately to find something that fills their heart, this void that they're recognizing is there, and there's no career out there that they can connect with that is fulfilling, and they don't have a desire to become all the things that we know right now are the viable careers, and they're being pushed many times by parents that want them to do traditional. In a lot of cultures, you either are a lawyer or a doctor. That's it. And my husband is Middle Eastern, and that is true within a lot of his culture. And all of his cousins are either doctors or lawyers. My husband is not. But the point is that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of the previous generations to do something that's prestigious, that they feel is of value. But everything is changing right now, and I feel like the animal communication, to go back to that, and the careers of passion and art and music, they're starting to become more prevalent, and people are really sticking to it and saying, you know what, I'd rather do this and be a starving artist than go and become a lawyer and hate my life and be in massive debt. Our priorities are changing, and the newer generations are not looking at life the same way. And it's a struggle and a disconnect between the generation before and the generations before that, where they can't understand how the thought process of the new generation and how they could possibly have these different values, and prefer to struggle than to be successful in society's norms. So I know that you asked me a specific question and I went off, but I think it's all relevant because it's really hard to define a definitive pathway for anyone right now, because we're reinventing new ones. So I recommend to people, if you're passionate, don't let the world around you tell you can't do something. You stand in your power and you create your own pathway. You develop your own, because I will tell you that a lot of the careers that I'm seeing with the young adults that I'm working with now, I'm like, I see you doing something along the line of this, but I don't think it exists yet. Like, you're going to be the pioneer or part of the group of pioneers where this is something, but we're not there yet. So I think it's more important to encourage people to shoot for the stars. I know that sounds like a Hallmark card, but for real, we got to invent our own narrative. We got to shift the narrative and do our own thing, and it might look completely different than what I'm saying to someone else. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's ambiguous. Is that the word? Or that's not the right word, but it's ever changing, evolving. And what do you think?
Yeah, I often say the same phrase, shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you hit the moon. I said that yesterday, actually. So
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's your heart knows what you need, and there's your greatest version of yourself, most pure, most connected with the universe, already deep inside your heart, already versioned in the future, all of the timelines. This science has gone into that. There's frequencies that emit in the heart that predict the future, in which Like if somebody is about to get in a car accident, at least 14 seconds before your heart realizes this, at least, because that's just a range that can be increased and extended. But yeah, there's in the super consciousness, it understands back and forth in time and precognitive tech. So it has the ability to even read what's your most successful timelines. And successful in not just career and money, but passion, aliveness, joy, excitement, um, bliss, love, things that express who you are and allow those things to unfold, the deeper meaning of the soul and the spirit and what you came here to do that is past the amnesia barrier of coming in and being born. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for going into that topic. And yes, everyone should follow their passion. I absolutely agree. And if your passion doesn't supply you with what you need to sustain yourself, then do a bit of your passion and a bit of what you need to sustain yourself, and then them both up. And you can make something entirely new and taking different skills that you've learned and learn more skills. Find what you love because you become a genius at that. And then you can combine them all together, including you can then learn love itself and how that works, and then learn how to make it so that you love everything and to where you even love the grind. So that you're passionate about making money to where it's easy to make money and it takes less time so that you can put more of that time into your passions and what you love. And then it's supplying you with uh, passive income. And then you can survive in this matrix. And yeah, the schools.
Yeah.
The careers, it's like the Matrix is trying to box everyone into certain things. And like with veterinarian school, I wish there was more homeopathic veterans, but yeah, they're not supplying them with money because they don't want them to do well because they want a certain structure that is ultimately detrimental to past pets and lessen their life. Or same thing with the medical establishment and everything else. It's just anti-life. So thank you for
Yeah.
being free of that box.
Yeah,
Um,
well, if I may expand on what you just said too, Sean, because you brought up an important point there. Um, I believe that the indoctrination that occurs in the schools on purpose suppresses the imagination and the innovation that we're all born with, that we all have innately. And we're so imaginative when we're young, and we have all these great ideas, and a lot of it is shut down moment after moment, whether it's our parents, unfortunately, and the stress and them not wanting or having the time to deal with us, or even if they don't even understand us. A lot of parents don't even get their children because they're just different than they are. And then they go into the schools and the same thing occurs, and it's layered upon layered and upon layered. So what happens next? We develop generations of children or youth, young adults who graduate, and they may not really connect with any particular arena. Like, for example, animals. How many careers are there with animals? Let's just say there's 5 main careers. I'm not going to go into them. I'm just for macro level, let's look at it like this. So let's say okay, well, 2 or 3 of those are out because it requires so much schooling you can't afford it. So I'm like, all right, I can't do that. All right, well, I'll be a groomer or I'll work at the shelter. Well, now I'm going to make less than $20 an hour. I can't pay my rent. And then I don't know if that's viable, and I'm going to really struggle. So do you see how they box us in there, Sean, right? So, and because we have limited our ability to be innovative and think outside the box because of our upbringing, people get stuck and they're like, well, I guess I'll work at PetSmart or wherever. And then they're miserable. And then they're like, well, I'm not really helping animals, and this isn't what I had in mind. Right. So what we need to do is, and what I'm seeing, and this is really important point. Sorry, it's long-winded. What I'm noticing is the newer generation, they are more dynamic because they're not buying into the indoctrination as much. They're much more rebellious, and they are outside of the box thinkers. So what they're doing is they're saying, all right, let's expand upon these 5 job choices or career avenues with animals. And now I'm gonna say, like, what is the need here? What do I, as the person, believe animals need? What are they missing? What are we doing in this reality that is not conducive for them, and how can I help? So what happens next is then they create an opportunity. They create a niche where they're like, all right, well, I'm going to bring animals and this together, but I can also make money. And that is the architecture and the innovation of what I believe these new generations are bringing forward, where they are able to think more broadly than previous generations because of our limitations, programming, et cetera, and their tenacity, so that they are able to break out of that box that you just mentioned, that the 3D wants us to remain in, so that we are either miserable or we're in debt or we're not happy and passionate about our career. And it's so narrow-minded. These children and young adults, and many passionate adults too, are creating opportunities that haven't existed before because they really are allowing their right brain, their imagination, to be at the forefront. So now we're developing something new where now you can make a career and work with animals. So anybody listening to this, if whether you're an adult or a preteen or whatever age, whatever stage, even 60 years old, and you're looking for something to do, think outside the box. If you want to work with animals or you want to do holistic healing, try to look for a niche, really brainstorm and connect with nature and connect with your inner self to discern what is needed, what's missing. And now how can you market it and create it for your own and be an entrepreneur? And now you've just created a whole new pathway. And imagine how many people will follow because you've opened the door of something new. Is this making sense?
Well, absolutely, and I agree. And like build up community, meet people, connect, make an audience, get yourself out there. Um, find ways to build up that support so it just abundance flows at a greater level, and be able to trust in your greater spirit to be able to overcome any of the heavinesses and challenges, and prioritize your time, and well schedule it, because there are things that take us away. Of course, I understand why people need to watch TV, because they need to diffuse, relax, get rid of upwelled negative emotions they have to deal with the grind. But if they understand more of emotional intelligence and how to resolve everything that comes at them, and then the less they need to do that. And then also dedication into your goals and writing them down, and journaling, and uh, writing to know more of thyself and program thyself. Take complete control of your program. Humans are programmable by nature. So you can either become like a bee that's symbiotic to the environment and helping everyone, and making yourself thrive and grow and love and community, or you can be a parasite, like a grasshopper that just takes from the environment, doesn't give anything back. And then also whatever the heck the mind control box is programming you to do. So people need to take control fully of how they program themselves, and then understand that their IQ isn't fixed, their energy level isn't fixed, their health isn't fixed. They can change everything about themselves and then become their greatest self. And they need to define that and then work towards it every day and expand on it, and find what they love in life, because that tells you about yourself. What movies trigger you, that like sometimes it will go into past lives and stuff that will understand who they are, what dormant skills that they're unique at are just waiting for them, that they've worked on in many lives to cultivate, and that just comes to them naturally once they unfold into it again. And some things are, like you said, in this boxed in system, not really existing anymore, or need to be flourished again or revived, or things from other worlds that haven't at all exist on this planet. And then they're the ones to bring it here, to make part of their dream and bring that part, their part of heaven here.
Right on, exactly.
So you went into birthing, and then we can go into kids. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things on birthing to get into that are flourishing now. And yeah, I think the system of birthing is pretty messed up, at least in Western culture, to where it's the people that are involved in it don't know almost anything and they're just told what to do. They give you chemicals that induce birth trauma. They make you lie down with it instead of like standing up. It seems to just let the baby, there should be chairs that allow them to allow the baby to use gravity to exit. And there's something called orgasmic birthing, which is interesting. It doesn't have to be sexual or anything. It's more of like where it's blissful and heart connecting to the child and to where it's the releasal in ecstasy and the water birthing. Can you tell us a little bit of what you and I found that there's a system spiritually to cause as much trauma as possible for both the mother and the child, which prevents remembering past lives. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know about birthing and what you suggest to our audience in birthing?
I gosh, I know so much about birthing. And I wrote about it in Starseeds and the Great Awakening. And there's so many ways we can go with this, but birth in general, there are portals. There's so many different types of portals. There's portals when you come into life, and there's portals when you exit. And they're both magical. There are portals created during sex, which we refer to as a sex in the negative 3D is sex magic. A lot when energy creates these portals, magic happens. Beautiful, magical energies and frequencies combine, and they can create so much. So, let's talk about the good part. When a woman in a baby, when the baby is conceived, so the man and woman have intercourse, there is ecstasy, there's this orgasmic connection. Not always, but to that degree, but in theory. And the baby is conceived. This portal is opened. So this birth portal is now open, and the integration between the soul of the baby and the mother, specifically in this case, not to negate the father, but really it's a bond between mother and the baby in this integration process to allow this soul to start to come through. And it's coming through this birth portal, and it happens throughout the entire gestation of the pregnancy. Now, when the child is ready, the soul's ready to come through, full integration occurs. Because up until that point, the soul comes in and out, is astrally traveling, it's with the mother, it's in other lifetimes. I mean, the soul can be in a lot of different places at the same time. But when the child goes through the birth portal and the baby is born, that is really significant. That is a ceremony, a sacred ceremony that occurs. And I know a lot about this from Lemurian times because I have a lifetime as a midwife in Lemuria that I learned about many years ago, which made sense why I wanted to do hypnobirthing, and why I work with children, and everything just made so much more sense. And this process of bringing in the soul through this birth portal is a really significant part of our introduction into this incarnation. It's very magical and it's very significant. So if we have this 3D setup where the dark players know that this is the significance of this, what they do is they try to traumatize in every direction possible so that it can negate and block the birth portal. So that's why women have such trauma surrounding childbirth. It wasn't always this way. Women used to have births that were filled with ecstasy and that they were orgasmic. You are right about that. Not in a sexual way, just this Kundalini activation. And when the soul merges with the mom, this beautiful bliss can occur. And the childbirth was not a painful, traumatic experience. You were surrounded by family and other midwives and so many divine, beautiful beings, other children. And not so much as much of the men, but a lot of the women. And they shifted the trajectory of that, especially with the Roman Empire, and the heavy negative and influence of this masculine. And they didn't want the women to be so powerful in that we can create birth like the goddesses that we are. that can open up, because men can't open a birth portal. It's just not possible. And so they're the jealousy of the hierarchy of women needed to be pushed down in their perspective. So then they started to create the birthing scenarios where women were then secluded from the men and from their family, and midwives were no longer allowed. So they were actually sent to birthing rooms on their own. And they weren't rooms like we know of now. It was more like birth houses, very small. And they would be in there for 12, 15, 24 hours at times. And then that's when the trauma began. Now that morphed over time to sedation and hospitals. I mean, the story is much longer. I don't want to spend too much time on it because could take me an hour to explain it. But then we morph over time, and now we're in hospitals. And the reason women are on backs is because it's more conducive to the doctor. The obstetrician requests that the woman be on the back, because they used to think that they had to pull the baby out because the body didn't have the ability to birth it without assistance, which is not true. So there were forceps involved and all of these things, and they were pulling babies out. And so the women in the position that we are told to be in, flat on our back, legs up, is really for the doctor's benefit, not the woman. So over time, everything that the woman needs has been completely inverted to what we are told that we have to do. And now it's become a trauma. Every generation, women talk about it's become this ritual where when a woman becomes pregnant, her mother and everybody around her they all tell their negative birth stories, the traumas. And then that implants and suggests so many more traumas. Then they become compounded. So by the time a woman goes to have birth, and she's reminded at every doctor's appointment, it's very sterile. It's very, there's no compassion involved. It's very medical. They no questions about what the woman wants and her birth plan. They laugh at birth plans. I had a birth plan and it was laughed at for it. So by the time a woman goes to have a child, she feels like she is completely disempowered, riddled with fears. How can they possibly be relaxed? And then you're placed on a bed flat, which is the opposite of what you should be doing. And so now the birth portal, the magic, the baby comes through trauma. And the cesarean rate is so escalated because the 3D dark players want the babies to bypass the birth portal altogether, which is a vaginal birth. And now they push for C-sections, because if a baby goes through C-section birth, they bypass the birth portal altogether. So they do a lot of things both that women have no idea about to create trauma for the mom and the baby, so that the birth portal is a traumatic entrance as opposed to a beautiful, enlightening and, beautiful experience for both. I'll stop there to see if you have any questions, because I just said a lot of different things.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for going into that. Yeah, it's just layer upon trauma after trauma to disconnect the mother from the child's ability and their ability to share in a circuit of love, amplify each other, and make their futures way brighter. For most women, it's like 50% of the block that keeps them from feeling greater love with their kid. Not that will stop that. And then, yeah, like C-sections, the cutting of the umbilical cord before the mother can have it on their heart for a long time before it just fades on its own, and then supplies the rest of the stem cells, as well as greater heart connection, and supplying from the universe. The yeah, the
There's so many things that they do.
yeah,
I mean, the list gets bigger.
circumcision, the cut
These
off
things they
that.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
And they laugh
jabs
at
they
you.
had. Oh my God, there's like just layers, and in a haunted hospital.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
so many
So
layers I
many
had to
things.
go through when releasing mine, and there's a great forgetting process that's put on. It's like as soon as the placenta breaks, there's a merging between the closed off dream space bubble of the baby and then this realm, and they even use it legally in like docking ships connecting to dock in the birth certificate and everything. And it's all this attachment comes in the world to limit and take and project onto the baby what it should be. And if we had like a chamber for this for women, so that the baby feels safe, that women feel safe, and it builds them up in strength and resilience to prevent all that. then there would be these powerful spirits coming in would be even greater in their capacity to bring their greater spirit into their body and manifest great change here. But it stops them from even remembering because they have to go through all those layers of trauma and heal. And most people aren't teaching healing at all. And they just give you like pills.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's their treatment. That is the treatment. And the umbilical cord serves a much bigger purpose. There's the energy of the umbilical cord remains always. That's the connection between the mother and child that never goes away. So when they cut that cord immediately after birth, they're severing that connection traumatically and abruptly. So delayed cord cutting is ideal, but there are many countries that let it fall off naturally, and many indigenous cultures that still model that philosophy of allowing that, because then it's a natural occurrence. It remains connected. The mother and child remain connected symbolically, physically, and then energetically. The energy that remains is much stronger if it naturally falls when it naturally falls off. So that's a whole other thing. So to bring it to a positive ending, what women can do and what I recommend is to recognize, number one, everything that they tell you to do in the hospital is framed in a way that you feel as if you don't have a choice. It's like they don't ask you, they tell you. And in reality, you don't have to do any of that. So I recommend someone find a doula and a midwife from the beginning if you're interested in having a more natural, healthier and balanced experience for you and your child. Find a midwife and or doula or both right away and start practicing. You don't have to spend a lot of money and take hypnobirthing, for example. There's a lot of other ones, but really you can teach yourself. It starts with meditation and releasing limiting emotions and facilitating the healing while you're pregnant. So you can de-stress as much as possible and get your body trained to be in the parasympathetic mode. So you're not in this survival sympathetic mode your whole pregnancy, so that by the time you go into labor, we don't want your uterus to be in shut off, because when you're in the parasympathetic survival, fight or flight, which most women are when they give birth, their body goes into that sympathetic mode of adrenaline, and catecholamines are released, and then there's more pain. The pain is amplified and everything breaks down because your body shunts blood away from your uterus, because your uterus is not a fundamental main organ of survival. So if you're having a baby and your blood is being shunted everywhere but your uterus to your brain, your heart, your lungs, your muscles, and your digestive system shuts down, your uterus shuts down, it's no wonder your labor is prolonged. So if we can train the body to be in harmony and then take women out of the hospitals for these traumatic births and into birthing centers are the next best thing, and obviously home births, water births. We're making progressions and we're seeing more than we've ever seen before because people are wanting that and advocating. But you don't have to do what everyone else tells you. There are other options. You just have to explore and empower yourself to have that experience that you know innately that you deserve. And I see the future of birthing to be completely different than it has been. And we're already moving in that direction.
yeah, it's beautiful what it will become. Uh, So if people want to have a really successful birth, essentially you're bringing and shipping into this realm a bright light that's as bright as it's usually going to be in the beginning in its pure, unlimited state, which is the inner child, miracles. It and as soon as that bright light comes in, all these things attract to it, even if it's not like, it doesn't have to be like a ghost or a demon or anything. It's like attachment from the big system in the matrix, and they're like taking from it and then limiting it down. So making a big space that's fortressed and safety bubbles and clearing ability to a loving detaching from it faster, like with the heartbeat, and where the goal should be to cultivate as much love with the baby as possible in the beginning, and have that strong and lasting and resilient, and supply the love towards making a strong foundation in protection so that love thrives and grows and lasts greatly into the future, because that will make a huge difference. And then I found, and this is something nobody knows that much that I've heard of, is when I psychic track and I read into past lives and unlock abilities and read stuff. And when I go around looking at places of power and chakras that have been made around the planet, I look into the history and how it was made and when, and it's like this big energetic current that goes from the center of the earth to the top and even into the clouds, and it like ley line crosses and stuff. A lot of the chakras were made upon birth of a powerful being in both animals and humans. So like you also want to have that in awareness, because that makes a lasting impression on the area, and then something that can be made harmonious and powerful, and even more powerful after the birth, as a place that if you were to do home birth, makes your house more powerful and fortress, and is like a birthing portal that connects to where the spirit came from, and allows for greater spiritual unfoldment and trade with the spirit world, as well as many other potentials in the future, and successful to birth and bringing a very powerful spirit in successfully without the Archon grid fucking with it. Yeah, and I would like to ask you about hypnobirthing and what like goes into that, and like what people can call upon you in this kind of field.
I don't do hypnobirthing anymore, but I'm sure there are many amazing practitioners, and hypnobirthing is just one method. I think there's hypno babies, and who knows, honestly, I've been out of the birthing world for a little bit now, at least 5-6 years. So there might be others. So I'm only familiar with hypnobirthing, the Mongan method. Marie Mongan, who invented whatever the word is, she came up with this this particular plan. And I like it. I like this one because it's very empowering. So it's like a childbirth education class, like you would go to Lamaze or something. But this is much more broad in that you learn what I believe that the doctors should be teaching you throughout your pregnancy at those checkups, like the conversations you should be having about what you should be doing to prepare. And I'm not just talking about the surface level, make sure your blood pressure is low and eat well and diet and exercise, like all the BS that they tell you, the surface level stuff. And the hypnobirthing really goes into like how to get your body ready. And you actually learn how your body and your baby work together. People have no idea. I had 3 children, Sean, and when I took hypnobirthing as a practitioner to learn to teach it, I was blown away at all the things I did not know about childbirth, having done it 3 times. Crazy. These women are not taught what your body does during childbirth. I'm talking like the specifics and the muscles and how they work together, and everything that we're taught actually goes against that. Like we're not supposed to push our baby out. We're not supposed to hold our breath, and everything that we do actually works against our body. And it's no wonder we have these failure to thrive births and all of this terminology that the doctors come up with to disempower women and convince them to use drugs. And we don't realize the effects that the drugs are actually having, and it's causing our body to stop the labor altogether. And then they push drugs like Pitocin, and it's insane. And we have no idea because we're just laying there like, please help me, you know, and that's the mentality that a lot of us are in because we're so scared. So hypnobirthing just prepares you for all of that. And it really goes through the misconceptions, the lies. And then the most important is we teach you how to do self-hypnosis daily to train you on how to put yourself in a relaxed state. I know hypnosis is a scary word for people. So really, let's just say it helps you relax. It helps you train yourself to relax your body and mind. So when you go into labor, you know exactly what to do and how to assist your body because your body knows what to do. We're just assisting. So hypnobirthing helps with that. But there's, like I said, there's millions of other ones, I'm sure, or techniques. You can also buy the book on Amazon, I think, without even taking the class. And I do offer my own variation of intuitive birthing on coaching. But it's a combination, though, of connecting with your baby, working with women on how to have a more empowered birth. But it's not hypnobirthing. It's just kind of my own thing. But it's all about just having the awareness and shifting yourself out of fear. And every woman has the ability to do that.
Wonderful. And in shows that I watched you on, you talk about something very important and powerful. I teach telepathy, and not many people know how to do it, and they just spur it on like going into nature or doing drugs and stuff. And then it's like a small bandwidth. I'd love to hear about your telepathy. You talked about speaking to the fetus of the child. And I also talk about this concept called the infinite fetus, which is in the dream bubble protected quarantine space of the mother's womb. The fetus is at a hyper infinite state and is in dream connection with the planet Earth and the mother, and has an aspect of it that's dreaming in awareness of its future, all the life it has in potential, all this awareness and wisdom from past lives, who it is in greater spirit. And that's not like shut down to what you would imagine a kid would be. It's like, I call it the infinite fetus, which is like this greater hyper super consciousness awareness that you can communicate. And you say that you've communicated with yours. Can you talk a little bit about that and how people can get into that?
Yeah, you're talking about when I did with my daughter, or just in general with, okay. Yeah, so for me specifically, when I had two boys, and my it's funny, my mom and myself, my sister-in-law at the time, and another woman, we created this like our own little spirit circle, and like once a week or whenever we could, we would meet at one of our houses, minus the kids, and we would do meditations, tarot cards, like whatever we could, because we were the only ones that we knew that were open to those types of things. And one time we did a channeling where we would connect with our higher self, and we would write down like through automatic writing, and then we would read the messages to each other just to share, no real objectives, just just for fun. And one time the soul of my daughter came through, and she introduced herself to me as a soul and said, I am going to be your daughter, and I'm coming in, and I have a large mission, and I need your help, and I need your permission to come through. And she started talking to me about, at that time, what I realize now is the fourth wave, which I learned about Dolores Cannon a little bit later than that, but a new wave of children that are coming into the planet, and she was going to teach me about the children. And so I was super excited. Of course, I said, I want you to come, because I knew I always knew I was going to have three. But to be honest with you, Sean, I thought I was going to have three boys. So I was wrong on the gender of the third. But I said I was happy to have her come through. I knew in my heart I was going to have three. And so I started to channel her every time I had a chance in the beginning. And then when I got pregnant with her, so it took me about almost a year to conceive her, because she kept saying, it's all about timing. It's all about timing. And then she taught me so much through the channeling sessions. We would communicate telepathically, but then I would write everything down that she would say. And she would talk about crystal children, indigo children, rainbow children, star children. And she started to teach me about children and why there are different types of children, and that I have two of the main types, and that she would be coming in as the third, rainbow type. And I was like, my mind was blown, because I was like, who else is talking about this? And I didn't know. And there were some books about indigo children and crystal children that I had read, but it wasn't quite exactly what she was saying. So I wanted more and more. I think what the issue was that she was supposed to teach me. I wasn't supposed to read it someplace else. So I channeled her throughout my entire pregnancy, and I learned an abundance of information that I then put into my books. So when I do soul readings for people and children, and when I communicate with nonverbal children, it is the soul of the person that I am communicating with directly, and I'm receiving messages for them, from themselves, to help guide them on what it is that they need to know. Because when we come in here, we are bombarded with 3D interference and that veil, and we forget. We forget the plan. We forget our soul contracts. We forget what we're here to do. We forget about our power and our abilities because we're so connected with the human experience that's very primal, and we are bombarded with this survival instinct of I want to fit in and I want to do what everyone else is doing, and we're also natural followers too. And so, and we're easy, like you said, we're easy to manipulate as a species, unfortunately. But that's also having to do with generations of programming, genetic modification. And so over time, we've become much easier to program. It hasn't always been this way. So I teach children and I work with children to expand on their telepathy. And I work with families who have nonverbal children to try to look at it as a gift and nurture the connection that mother and father have with the child energetically, and to help them realize they've been communicating telepathically this whole time. They just didn't realize it. So I believe that this is at the forefront of our thoughts right now as a collective, because we are moving to the direction where we are going to be communicating more telepathically. I actually had a child come to me in a session. I haven't talked about this in about 3 years. It was about 3 years ago, maybe 4. I did a session with a child, and she told me that by 2030, we would be telepathy in general would be a known, much more normal part of our communication. So it's not that we won't be speaking anymore as a species, because we have verbal abilities for a reason, because that's what we've chosen as a species to be able to utilize and vocalize. However, we will connect more to our innate ability of connecting to each other through telepathy, because then it's heart-to-heart connection, and there's none of this word spells or miscommunication and misinterpretation because of the words, so that we can just have a download between the two of us, where Sean and Sherri may not necessarily have to connect with words, but we just understand each other in the moment, and we know exactly what we are trying to say. We used to be able to do that, and now we're going back to that. So by 2030, she was telling me that many of us will be able to do that again. So I thought that was really, really interesting.
Lovely. I'm also wanting to work on that too by reading the to-do list and the blocks that keep communication going more simply, because a lot of these abilities, when the body's in its purest, greatest, most safest space, you start jittering tons of energy. When it feels unsafe, it closes itself off as a defense mechanism. So there's all these different systems. As we purify, become whole and heal, then they'll come online. And I'm going to help with that. And thank you for helping as well in the fields that you are teaching for many kids. Yeah, for those out there, look into telepathy, channeling, or automatic writing for connection to the infinite fetus, so that you can get some interesting messages and what they suggest, as well as how to help them bring their greater spirit in successfully in a greater timeline. Yeah, you talk about crystal children, psychic, indigo, rainbow children, the concepts for what we can bring in. And there's like a whole process to how to amplify that to change the future, because that is a grand chessman to make the whole timeline better. Is like what of your soul family members you bring in, and how much of them you're able to bring in. And then like some people are bringing in angels and deities and founders and the dragons and ETs. And you said something that I don't run into many people that acknowledge on one of your shows, which is most people here are older than this planet. And I completely agree. And it's just like, wow, thank you for bringing that to people's attention, because most people I read, I mean, maybe because I don't read that many muggles or people that are, not open and awakened yet. But yeah, I still read a lot of the population, and most of them are older than this planet in soul. And it's just, so that pretty much means everyone's a starseed in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important because there's so much confusion right now. Like people are like, "Am I a starseed?" it kind of breaks my heart because then it makes it seem like we're this elite group and we're trying to get away from that. No one is more special than anyone. I don't believe that. I believe we all have infinite potential to connect with that highest version of ourselves. And it's hard and it's a struggle to do it in the human form or in any incarnation, depending on what density you're in, really, because there's a lot of limitations in lower densities that we're in, especially. And we forget, but we're all star seeds, all of us, every single one of us. It's just some of us are super indoctrinated, and some of us have had many lifetimes riddled with traumas that we are so embedded and so anchored into the third dimension in this reality. And then there are probably other parallel universes with similarities in similar places. And then that's where we get this notion of a soul being trapped, where the soul is never trapped. It's just that fractal of that soul that's recycling through many lifetimes of these traumas and disease, which is what the matrix is built upon. You know, that's what they want to. They have their guardians and archons, making sure that we have a network of souls or fractals of souls trapped here. So the ones that are perceived trapped are the ones that we look at as non-star seeds, but they're not star seeds. They're just they have forgotten, and they're so embedded in their traumas. So the star seeds that we hear about are the ones that come in from a higher density of consciousness, from other planets, from parallel universes, that volunteer to descend and have a human experience, to be someone's sister or mother or teacher, to help influence and shift the trajectory and awaken and activate. That's what I feel like I'm doing and you're doing, and so many millions of others. But truly, we are all star seeds. And we don't want this perception that the star seeds and the light workers are something special. And that, because then we've created another elite group, and we're trying to move away from the elite group. That's why sometimes I have sessions with people and they're like, oh my God, you're a celebrity in our house. And I'm like, I'm like, please don't call me that. I said, that's actually kind of insulting. And I know you didn't mean it that way, but I really just want to help people. We got to get away from that savior complex, because we're all magnificent. So it's important to talk about that.
Yeah, that's the key to the game here. Not looking to save or becoming your own savior. And it's everyone on the planet is called here and is a unique puzzle piece that can make a big difference to make the timeline better. And everyone's a dormant, special grand chess piece waiting to be activated to make a big difference. Can you talk a little bit about your work with kids in the online school and what's going on with that, and how what you're offering for people, and that would really get them excited, because they deserve to you deserve the understanding of them that this is a possibility to work with you and what you're presenting.
Yes, thank you for giving me that chance. So there's two things. There's Aramis Creative Learning Center. So it's an online virtual platform that's really just a movement. It's part of a movement. It's been going on for 4 years, and it's like imagine extracurricular classes for children. I don't like to use the word school, and we don't have teachers. Those are indoctrination words. So it's a learning center, and we have mentors. So we're not part of the Loosh system. These are beautiful mentors, including myself, that really volunteer our time, because there's very little pay involved. And we host classes that we all combine believe that children want to learn about. So if you look back on my Instagram page under my name, but also Aramis Creative Learning Instagram page, we have probably hundreds of classes over the last 4 years that we've offered. You can look back and see the incredible subjects that we have come up with. It's crazy to look back, but I mean, it's esoteric and metaphysical mixed in with curriculum based, like mindful math, spiritual science based classes. But a lot of it's just remote viewing, psychic abilities, crystals, energy healing, learning. I've taught like literally certified children in Reiki. Not that I really believe they need certifications, but they get a certification in level 1 and level 2. Mindfulness, tapping, emotion coding, dream interpretation. I mean, you name it, we have taught it. Art, music, science. We have tried it. We have taught it, and children absolutely love it. So we're trying to fill a void where we believe children need and require this as part of their fundamental growth and development that are not being offered, even in Montessori and other places like that. We do cater more to homeschool children, I believe, because they're the ones that are more open and interested. But all of our classes are on the weekend, and every month it's a la carte. So the number one question I get from parents is, how do I enroll my child? You don't need to enroll. You see a class that you want that fits your schedule, you sign them up, and they get to be a part of it. So every month it's different. It's a completely new set of some subjects, and we're just constantly adding. The long-term goal is, and the reason why my family and I moved to Florida, because we were in Maryland before, is because this is where we've chosen to open the first physical center that will be a full service, operational, non-curriculum, because I don't believe in curriculum, but it'll be the first physical center that will incorporate animals and healing and wellness and project-based learning. And you can go and learn more about it on Aramis Creative Learning. And it'll be the first of many. We will have them all over the country and worldwide, so that we can hopefully help as many children as possible. So that's one very strong pillar of what I do. And the rest of it, I spend my time doing one-on-ones with adults. And so helping adults activate, awaken. I do soul readings, a lot of what a lot of other people do, but my own unique way. And then when I work with children, the focus and intention is to help them understand their psychic abilities, to not be afraid of them, how to enhance them if that's what they want, and how to help the families break away from the labels if their children are labeled and medicated. I work with them to help them truly understand why their children are that way, and perhaps look at alternative options as opposed to medication, and try to explain why, and to educate them on the gifts that they have as opposed to their what they're referred to as their children have limitations, or they're not they're not normal, which in fact they're just very gifted. So those are kind of the two elements of the work that I do. I also write a lot of books, as you can imagine. I do a lot of interviews, and I speak publicly, and I'm very passionate about it, because the more people I can get in front of and educate on all of this and advocate, because I believe I'm an ambassador for New Earth children and education primarily, but I also feel very passionate about helping adults work through the indoctrination and the programming and help them find themselves and heal and understand what 3D interference is and all the things that they do to limit our capacity. And then once it really just takes us knowing and not consenting and making a different choice, creating new pathways, we break down the illusion, we come together. And that's what my new book is about: courage to change, having the courage to recognize that, go within, heal, forgive each other, work together. And then the freedom movement, which is the second part of the book, is once we do that, then only then do I believe we can truly look to each other as a community without competition and hatred and division. We have to heal ourselves first, and then we can build bridges to each other. But until then, it can be quite convoluted, because we have parts of us that aren't healed. So it's really hard for us to work together with others if we haven't healed ourselves first, because then we haven't gotten to the root cause, and the inner child isn't healed yet. So that's really important.
Very well said. And how can people support you? What kind of things are you looking for? I am interested in, also, this is one part of my dream where I want to open up schools for both adults and kids. I've been making it online and collaborating with other people, but I want it to be physical and far reaching. And eventually we make real Hogwarts schools and things that make a very needed system on this planet of healing, that is same thing with what is needed as a remedy for many of the parasitic systems on this planet, is everyone detaching from their parasite and then creating a new system, parallel economy, parallel media, parallel schooling, parallel everything that is in harmony with the planet and supports each other in community, to where wealth just builds and it's not drained and based on profit and illness and other stuff. So
Absolutely.
thank you for doing that. So what are you looking for in types of people to collaborate? And yeah, since we share dreams, we can collaborate as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of different ways. If we're looking at it in the 3D, we have our nonprofit called the Aramis Collective, and it's really about raising funding to open the first center. Now, our vision for Aramis Creative Learning Center is humanitarian based, which means that we are looking to open a fully funded and operational center through humanitarian funding or angel investors donors who don't want a return on investment. They're willing to basically donate to create centers that are free for children and their families. This is not a profit business. I don't want money from anybody, from families. Like, I believe education should be free. So we're looking for big time investors. I keep using the wrong word. Not investors, but donors that are willing to, that have the financial means to support something such as this without looking for something in return. Until we are waiting for the humanitarian flip or vent or whatever, lots of different words for it to occur, then we'll have more than enough money to support these types of missions and many others. But in the meantime, we have our nonprofit for people who wish to donate. So that helps pay for a lot of the stuff that I do, and helps us pay for mentors and marketing and advertising, and to put more books in animation. We haven't done any animation in probably over a year because we just haven't had the funding. So in the 3D aspect, if people want to support, they can donate a small amount or a larger amount, whatever they can. It's greatly appreciated. As far as bigger, like on a more wide scale, share if you resonate with what I'm speaking about, pass the information on, share my books, share my lectures. I'd love to be invited to more conferences. Spread the word. It's all about knowledge. So if what I've said today is resonates, share it so that more people are aware. And the third thing is, who knows how long it's going to take us to open the amount of Aramis centers that I want to. So what I encourage parents that I hear from on a daily basis, that I get emails all the time, when can my child go to your center? I'm not sure, because I really don't know the timeline. So what I encourage everyone to do is, if this is something that you want for your child, advocate for it in your area and create it. And many people are pulling their children out of public schools. They're starting homeschool pods. They're bringing communities together, and they're sharing resources, and they're thinking out of the box. And we are just coming together as a community in different parts of the world, in different states and cities. And we are just doing it. We're just saying, you know what? We're just going to do something, and we're going to be part of the change, so that we can collectively create new education for children. So it's not just Aramis. It's yours and many others. And I'm so proud, because a lot of the parents that I've been coaching for years now have homeschool centers in their area, and they're doing it. And they have 4, 5, 6 children. But look how many, like, those 6 children didn't have that opportunity years ago, and now they do. And it's going to continue to expand and expand. So if we can inspire people by sharing this information to say, you know what, I'm going to try to do this for my children. Network and try to find other people in your area that are like-minded and create your own. That's where the change occurs on a massive level, when we can inspire, and then people are motivated to do it themselves. So those are kind of the main ways that we can be supportive. It's not just about supporting me, it's about supporting the children on a very macro level, by educating, by supporting them, and creating these smaller communities throughout the world, which that's how you create big ripples, when we have the change happening all over in pockets. And then it's like, next thing you know, we have these huge networks, which is really cool. We're already seeing that, though.
Exactly, yeah. Working and collaborating with the learning centers, homeschool pods, the daycare centers, making it so interconnected network online, phone and contacts, shared information, online teaching, video making, skill sharing, systems of all types that can merge together and then start building and then trading and building a more and more value so they can separate from the need from the parasitic system. I see that for the future, and the more people that connect like you, me, and other people that have this dream and this goal to teach people true wisdom. Contact either me or Sherri for if you have that same dream and you want to collaborate, and we'll start making groups and all kinds where we can all, if we have the will, then we carry that flame inside us and torch and pass it around and lighting other torches, and then we can all build each other and make it abundant so that you don't have to worry about that anymore, and you can follow your passion, which expands human consciousness and the children. So I got some questions here from the chat. Question for Sean and Sherri: what do you think humanity should do to stop the elites from indoctrination of evil globally, of the evil globally, especially towards the younger generation? Go ahead.
I mean, I think that's what we've been talking about. It's getting your children out of public school. It's not being a part of the system and creating our own network so that we can unify together to create the change. Because I can guarantee you they're not part of the change. They're part of the limitation and indoctrination. So the only solution I see is us creating something separate of that and having a choice as much as possible. I recognize that some states don't have that ability to homeschool. Like I've talked to a few parents that say if they took their children out of school, they'd be arrested. I had no idea that some states had such strict laws. So then it comes to educating your city and going to these meetings, education. And we need to get the education out of the government control. Like they should be separate. So if we can work, I don't like to get into politics. It's not my thing, but some people are open to that, and go and advocate for your families that you want something more. But really, it's about alternative directions that a lot of us are going with our children and creating something new.
Lovely, yes. And for indoctrination systems, like either get them out of the public school. If you can't do that, I understand. If the public schools are super haunted, they have like ancestral spirits haunting the kids, and there's like bully scenarios and like influence of demon attached to altars, and wounding and trauma passing on cycles. And yeah, a big energy harvesting system that expands around the planet, and for some reason goes back to the Vatican and some other things. But yeah, it's a pretty not fun place if you're a very psychic person and empathic. So you want to teach your kids, if they're in that environment, to how to camouflage their energy by building geometrical structures off their heartbeat that prevent things from knowing that they have rare energy. Fortressing, being able to detach. Detachment is the state and pathway to enlightenment in Buddhism and Hinduism. Detaching faster to things than they can attach, as well as clearing, because they're all the kids like attached. There's like demons attached that steal your energy, overwhelm you, and dump negative emotions on a person.
Yeah.
How do you resolve those negative emotions and transmute them into what they want to become, like the opposite, like sadness and resilient happiness, anger into empowerment, so that they have enough energy throughout the day. And putting the energy motion in the direction that it wants to be, healing so they can overcome any wounding and not take things personally, being able to become and reach the heart of any other kid, especially if they're in need, and even if to be able to reach the heart of a bully, to where you gain their respect and they don't come after you because they're in the most need of love, because they got either bullied themselves or abused or something that is making them do that. being able to get rid of entities, banishing, pushing out of your space, sending to quarantine realms through capture or whatever. And any attachment and limitation and weight coming on the heart, shifting the perspective and like instead of woe is me, and giving that spark of love in your heart the fuel it needs in love, gratitude, and faith in yourself, in your greater spirit, to then start engulfing whatever the weight is in your love fire, to burn it as fuel that makes your love stronger. And of course, when you want psychic abilities to flourish, it's all about power generation in the body of different types of energy. And that the generators throughout the organs, the chakras, the cells, etc., they don't turn on unless they feel safe. They don't expand and generate more energy until they feel safe, less attachment, and protected. So the more safe you can get your child to feel throughout their life, to coming out, to speaking, to their space, the more they feel like shining. And meditate, and then teaching them how to do that themselves so that you're not just holding the weight of that in meditation. Show them the value of it. It's really hard to teach kids meditation because they have so much energy and they're like ADHD and wanting to focus on many things. So then the meditation of being able to clear that so that they can go inward, and it's like a recharging, like a cell phone. And I'd like to ask you also, how do you teach from all the different kids you've met? How do you teach meditation? What have you found
Yeah,
most?
that's a good question, but I also I want to bring up an important point because not everybody is able to take their child out of public school. And I want to talk about the reason why we have some of our children have soul contracts to remain in the public system. So there are children that have soul contracts to not be out of the public school system. So one parent might be watching this right now saying, well, there's no way I can afford private school and I can't homeschool and I don't have that option. So they're going to stay here. I don't want you to think that, well, then your child's a lost cause. Likely your child is one of those meant to be in the public school system to be part of the change. And I don't mean that your child is necessarily going to stand up and advocate, although some of them are rebellious and they do, but it's their energy that is likely needed there to influence the other children in a positive way by their frequency. And like you just said, their heart space and the ripple effect and how their vibration affects, because there is voice of God technology and there are negative grids around the school system, specifically the public school systems, which emit a negative frequency all the time. Then you couple that with the prison style walls, the fluorescent lighting, and a lot of the designs of the system, of the school, the entities. I mean, compounded. There are a lot of starseed children that have agreed to be within the public school system to distort those frequencies and to break down the grid by being in the presence of their own light. So there are children that are supposed to be in the school system. I have two that were in the public school system, and I recognize that that's why they were there. And it makes sense to me now in hindsight. And as I look around, I look back, it makes sense to me. So if that's the case, then what we need to do is support their journey there to make sure we keep them protected. So Sean just gave a bunch of good examples. I coach a lot of my families on ways to teach their children. You can do a lot for your younger children. I'm talking the ones that are not old enough to understand, but as they get older and they're in fourth, fifth, sixth grade and up and through high school, they are old enough and you can empower them to create grids around themselves, to create these geometrical patterns, to wear certain pendants or crystals, or just their intention of not consenting. So there are a lot of things you can do to help their journey while they're in the school to make sure, and then how to release. And I coach a lot of my children on how to do that. And there are classes that we offer for that exact reason, like tapping, emotion coding. How when you go home, how do you release all of those limited beliefs and trapped emotions? And you don't realize, a lot of children don't realize they've taken on the emotions of everyone else. So their anger isn't even their own. How can we teach our children to recognize that the anger they feel is theirs or not theirs, and what to do with it? And this most simple way is to tell them to just breathe it out. And I have this balloon technique and all these things that I've offered on other channels, and I've talked about it a million times, so I don't want to repeat myself. But there are lots of ways we can cater to their safety. What was your question, Sean? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and it's beautiful. And
You,
so how do you, with your experience with children, have found the way to successfully get a kid motivated to meditate?
oh, meditate. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, meditation is such a ambiguous term, and it's so misunderstood. And I love teaching children about this and adults. And I actually talked about this in my most recent book, Courage to Change. When I go in the healing section, I talk about this exact thing. So there are different forms of meditation. There's grounding meditation and there's right brain activity meditation. Grounding meditations are the ones where you are centering and balancing yourself. And you would typically think about meditation as, you're sitting in the lotus position, you're quieting the mind, and children have a really hard time doing that. So I really don't recommend that for many children because it's very hard for them because of their frequency and a lot of different reasons for them to sit still. So going out on a hike, being out in nature, walking their dog, going for a run, exercising, going to the beach, swimming in the ocean, salt pool, or going on a boat, going fishing. Those are other ways that they can ground and meditate at the same time. They're clearing their mind, like, take the electronics from them or let them listen to music. That's fine. And they're able to connect with nature. And that's actually meditation in and of itself. There's also right brain activities where they can meditate, where they are drawing, they are coloring, they are painting, they are creating music. They are even doing Legos, building something, using their mind. There's lots of different ways to meditate. It's not just one way. So there's a plethora of ways that you can find for your children. The whole purpose of it is how can we have them disconnect and focus on balancing and connecting with their inner wisdom, their inner knowing, or their creative and imaginative side, creative writing, making poems. So meditation is not just sitting in the lotus position, saying and meditating, which many people think. And that's why a lot of adults don't meditate. I don't even meditate like that anymore. I meditate on my run every morning. I run for 2 to 3 miles, and I come back with the most downloads after I run. That's my meditation. So it's imperative for me that that's my period of releasing, letting go, and downloading. But others will find it in the shower and taking a bath, reading a book, whatever. You just have to find your method because it doesn't always have to be meditation in the way that we think it. Now, there are really amazing guided meditations. So if someone wants to try the traditional way, we have a beautiful mentor that created a meditation called the Forest Meditation for children, and that we offer very cheap. I think it's like $2 through Aramis Creative Learning Center in our store. And it's beautifully visually created. So it's like an animation, and her voice is so soothing, and it helps children just sit down, close their eyes, listen to it for 15 minutes, and it'll help. So that is a form of traditional meditation, but they're being guided through, and it's really peaceful and really relaxing. So it's all about figuring out the way that finding what works best for your children, what resonates with them.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's hard to get them to want to sit down meditation. So yeah, that's beautiful. Like expanding into the other types of meditation, movement and attention, and bringing them to feel greater. That's so like, thank you for sharing that with people. With what I've found, I used to not like meditating at all. I thought it was like, it takes too long for like little gain back. And there'd always be these things pulling you in different directions, and these little itch things that like make you move around and all that. So I think there's a lot of blocks on kids wanting to do that I've noticed when they attempt to meditate, that pull them out of that, and then they want to rock back and forth or do something funny.
Yeah.
And when I got into meditation, what got me into meditation was realizing a different method of doing it, in holding your hand in different places and clearing and healing. to where you can generate tons of bliss and love and just be like on cloud nine. And oh my God, that's so good. It's like recharging your whole body like a cell phone. And it just makes the whole day better. So that got me addicted into meditation and also being able to power up. And then when certain conditions are right, visions come on HD and you can just like watch an interesting like a TV internally, and you go inward more and more and even travel. And those are the things I think kids would be more interested in, but there's a lot of blocks that want to prevent them from experiencing that. And so if there's been trial and error testing on different types of kids in a system so that you go through it for a kid to where they meet all the criteria to where they can feel that bliss and harmony and love and recharging and then even spur on their vision, then that would be ways to motivate them because the way meditation is presented doesn't seem very fun. Yeah, and I got another question here from Alana. Can you share what you know about how the ancient Egyptians, or another, let's expand that to more civilizations, if you've ever heard of anything, handled it in the birthing chambers? Do you know anything about birthing chambers and of the ancient civilizations?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I've learned a lot through my sessions in Lemurian and pre-Atlantis, like the earlier Atlantean era, Egyptian, a lot of indigenous. So they all have a theme. Whether they birth out whether they're in a chamber, whether they're in a cave, whether they're in a beautiful forest, whether they are in a crystal pyramid, or lots of different variations that I've seen. The idea is that they've all created a sacred space that is absent of any negative frequencies. So they literally create a high vibrational space, and they have ceremonies that they perform in order to create safe spaces. And they call in their indigenous ancestors. They call, and depending on where they are, they called upon their angels. They called upon their star family, and it was an entry point where many times they knew the soul was coming through. So it wasn't an unknown birth date, what I'm trying to say. Like they had planned the entry point. So they knew when the child was going to come through. And everything was done in such a beautiful ceremony so that they knew that they were activating the birth portal so that the child could come in and integrate and not take on etherical viruses, because a lot of the problem with the 3D is a lot of these children are coming in and they get etherical viruses. And my daughter got one when she was born because she's so high vibrational, and I thought she was going to die. And it was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. And so when they go through the birth portal, it's sacred, but it could also be quite traumatic for all the reasons we've mentioned before. So they create these sacred spaces to ensure the safety and the vitality of the experience. So really that's what these chambers were for, to make sure that they were safe and they were protected. I think that's what she's asking. So I think that we are looking towards that in the future of birthing, that I see where we're creating similar birthing centers. I think birthing centers are on the right track. Not all of them. I can't speak for all of them because there's many I haven't been to, I'm sure. But the ones that I have seen, they are trying to recreate that, where it's less medical and it's more very comfortable for the women. And it's full of choices. The lights are dimmed. They have beautiful music playing. They're not laying down on their back unless they want to. A lot of them are water births, or they're on birthing stools, or they're standing up. And it's completely different frequency.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the building the space, especially on a place of power that already exists, supported by Earth, especially beneficial towards birthing or ability you want to manifest, or the type of spirit to bring in. Then the geometry of the place built on top of it, amplifying, like the pyramids would be like fire inside, and other temples, and the pillars and the material involved to build up energy that's positive and make a sacred space. being guardian by many positive races that amplify the process coming in and protect, preventing. Thank you very much for going into the psychic parasites. Yeah, that's what I was going into with. As soon as the placenta breaks, all this attachment tries to come in and dim and steal and limit. And if we can make systems that prevent all that, and spirits of protection and support and geometries and magic circles and materia and all the senses that help, oils that help the birthing process go, streamlined and easy and less traumatic. And this is what these chambers were about in many civilizations: frequency, music, essential oils, smelling, the food that they intake, the process of teaching and generation. The process was an attempt to bring in divinity, to bring in gods, to bring in angelics, to make the world an incredible place. It's like that there are people that knew like astrology and the timing of birthing, and like with Alexander the Great example, they moved his birth to a date where he would change the world. And it's like all these things in science, and where you can bring such a powerful being that will make the world an incredibly better place. And that's super important. But the Matrix doesn't want that, because they don't want those powerful beings coming in. And the Archon grid will often stop powerful births and make
Oh, they will.
stillbirths. Yeah, it's awful. But there's all these different tech we can use to protect from that, and psionics. And we can, for those out there that need it, contact either me or Sherri to help you with that process. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're offering that people can contact you for?
So the main thing that I do are the soul readings, and it's really just to support. So whether I work with somebody one time or they come back for future follow-ups, it's really just about empowerment. So yes, I'll look at their soul origin and what planets they're connected to, who their star family is, or who's around them, rather, past lives that they have that are in relation to this life. It's not really a psychic show where we're looking at it just for fun. It's like we're really looking at past lives that are relevant. What lives are impacting you right now, and why is it important to know about these particular lifetimes, and how are they helping you? And really what I feel like I'm a facilitator to help people put the dots together so that they leave a session with me feeling empowered. That's my intention. I want to help people feel like they're in control of their journey and their activation, and they understand or understand why they've been in loops and cycles, and why they feel blocked, and why what ancestral healing are they facilitating and being a part of, what soul contracts do they have, so that they can move forward. Because sometimes all it takes is you moving forward with a different mindset. When you stand in your own divinity, and nothing else matters, because nothing works. The illusion breaks down, the 3D interference doesn't work, and the grid does not function when we are standing in our divinity. And I just like to help people stand in their divinity, because everything changes. And I do that with children as well. So most of my time is spent doing one-on-ones with adults and children. But I also offer classes. So I'm teaching automatic writing. This month I'm teaching emotion coding. I'm teaching tapping for children. I teach animal communication. So I have various classes that I teach whenever I have the time to do that. So you can find me most easily at sherridivband.com. You can email me through the website there. You can also find me through Airman's Creative Learning Center, but I'm more on the other one because I'm just more involved in that arena. But we also have a ton of new classes for August. For children, we have, like I said, we have tapping, we have astrology for beginners for a children class and an adults class. We have psychic abilities that Mark is teaching to help children identify their psychic abilities and build upon them. He also teaches a lot of remote viewing and a lot of amazing classes. He's also teaching Greek mythology. It's one of our favorites, talking about goddesses and heroes and and all of that mythological creatures. We are also teaching, what else are we offering this month? Mindful math, spiritual science. We're doing a unit on emotional and physical first aid. So we've got every month we've got some new cool classes. I think those are the main ones we're offering this month. So check them out on AramisCreativeLearning.com.
And can you mention your books again and the video that people can look up, and any other things you have planned, like events?
So on if you follow me on my Instagram page, Sherri Divband, just it's under my name, I announced a lot of what I'm doing. I'm also on Facebook. All my books are on Amazon. So if you look up me as an author, all of them will come up. Divinely Guided Children Animation is on YouTube. I think you can also find it through my YouTube channel as something that I share. So that's on my page. What am I doing next? I've got a couple conferences coming up next year and a couple workshops, but I think I'm home for the rest of this year. And I'm doing mostly virtual stuff. So I'll announce a ton of things that is coming up next year. I'm really excited about partnering up with a bunch of people next year. But for this year, I am home, and I think that's it.
Cool. And you do regression therapy and yeah, okay, cool classes. Yeah, oh, wonderful. And I'll put the email and stuff, so feel free to put that in, send that to me, and I'll put that in the description so people can contact you. And yeah, I think any books or anything you have planned deeper into the future besides what
Yeah,
you are?
my next book I'm working on is animal book. So I'm going back to animals, and I'm going to go into the human and animal bond, soul contracts, and it's really going to be focused on our relationship with animals in the animal kingdom. So that's the book I'm working on now. I'm really not going to start truly until the end of the year, but I put the outline together, and that's my next project.
Lovely. And again, contact Sherri and me if you want to collaborate in this greater dream of the future of teaching adults and kids these wonderful skills of expanding and connecting and making it so that we're in a network and supporting each other. And then the cycle of abundance builds it up to strengthen past any limitation and blowback from the matrix. Yeah, and my name is Sean Bond of the Psionic League, psionicleague.com, Psionic League YouTube. I can do consultations and clearing and healing and unlock dormant abilities. Got abilities on the membership side of the site. We're doing workshops on teaching abilities and mystery school, so feel free to contact us if you're interested in that. And we're doing tours to sacred places and places of power, pyramids and temples around the planet. So message us if you're interested in awakening your greater capacity and abilities inside yourself by going to these places of power that have these superpowers, as we give them love and healing and protection and support to unfold and blossom and expand potential of humanity and evolution in their emitting frequency, like a chakra and meridian blueprint for the earth. Yeah, and I request everyone to share this video to as many people that need it as possible. People that are expecting, are gonna give birth, have kids, to the kids themselves, to anyone that you think would expand from this video. And this has been a powerful video, so thank you. And to make the world a better place, to change the future, to make even a little bit of difference in the spirits coming into this world, we can do it. Please share this video. You can make a difference. And click that like, subscribe, leave a lovely comment complimenting Sherri on her wisdom and letting us know, showing us with the amount of views in the comments if you want to have Sherri back on, if this is something that you're interested in expanding more into the topic. Let us know. And I love you all so very much. Thank you for coming. Any wisdom you want to leave our audience with? In like
I just want to thank everyone for joining in today, and allowing me this opportunity to speak about children and just pick my brain. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for having me on the channel, and I would be honored to come back if you so choose to invite me. So thank you for having me.
We're honored to have you again. Yeah, so let us all know in the comments and share this video wherever you can. Thank you all. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Okay, go ahead and do these type of